Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. I am the Diggly Dude, Doc, aka the Papatoe Panther with the slipper on. Mr. Slipper's here to talk Football Ferns with Wildcard, who is Aotearoa's Football Ferns expert. And we're going to be doing a Football Ferns podcast right here, right now. And then we're going to quickly re-up with a Black Caps podcast as well. And also, in the next 24 hours, there should be a Rugby League episode on your iTunes, Spotify, YouTube feed. However you absorb the niche case. So we're just rolling through a bunch of different sporting topics early in the week. And we'll keep them separate. So if you like your footy and you don't like your cricket, we're here to accommodate to you. Vice versa, you know the deal. Support the niche case as best you can on Patreon. Sponsor the podcast if that's your buzz. Like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. And now we are crossing live to the naughty Northland, where the Wildcard is here to offer his thoughts on Aotearoa's Football Ferns losing 2-0 to Canada. Wildcard, how the fuck are you? And what's going on with the Football Ferns?
Hey, bloody good, mate. Well, what's going on with the Football Ferns? So they, we already did a podcast after the first game, bit of a heartbreaking loss in stoppage time there against a very good Netherlands side. They played a Canadian side a couple days later who, I thought that Netherlands would just be a rough and impossible kind of stylistic matchup. And the old boxing phrase that I've been rolling out a few times, styles make fights. So I thought that Netherlands just having supremely talented attacking, basically a front four, a lot of players who can create a lot of things, and I thought that would just be a bit too much for the Football Ferns to handle. Whereas I thought Canada are a team who are a little more limited going forward, but do have one of the best defenses in the basically in the world. I mean, coming into this World Cup, they'd conceded 1 goal in 8 games in 2019, and they haven't conceded a goal at the World Cup yet. So they're doing all right at the back there. I thought that would mean this was our chance to sneak a 0-0 draw, and the other game was going to be the one we'd be struggling for, pride, but it ended up being the other way around. They nearly snuck a 0-0 draw against Netherlands, and then they just kind of got outclassed by Canada and, lost 2-0, couple goals, one early in the second half, which is just a terrible time to concede. You just got into the sheds, a bit of a boost having got through the first half of the game. Coach would have gone through all the different ideas. Here's how we're going to capitalize. Here's what we're going to do. We did the same thing against England. We struck 10 minutes into the second half. That was the big goal we needed. Taking the big moments. Here we conceded straight after the second half started, and it's just not good. And then Canada, who just controlled the ball the entire time, went and scored another one with about 10-15 minutes to go. And while it was 1-0, at least they were still in the game theoretically, even though they were creating pretty much nothing going forward against this insane Canadian defense. But at least, hypothetically, someone could have made a mistake, or, a shot could have floated in the top corner from a mile. You never know. But once it's 2-0, it was kind of dead and buried. And unlike the first game, where everything Tom Samani did seemed to work perfectly, here, everything he did, nothing worked badly. I don't think he made any massive mistakes. I was surprised he brought on Emakete at the end and not Paige Satchel, and I would have brought on Paige Satchel about 10 or 15 minutes earlier as well, just to get some pace, just something else to mix it up. Even Hannah Wilkinson didn't play as well, just someone who you can target with the long ball, which might have been their only way to get out of defence at some points there with just no possession. And yeah, it wasn't a great performance, but I think Canada kind of I think a lot of the things that went wrong, and it was notable that Samani, who afterwards, he said in the press conference that he thought they were too slow to those first balls. They weren't winning the 50-50s. They weren't getting up for the second phases and stuff. And then Ali Riley, straight after the game, had said the same thing. So when the coach and captain are both kind of unanimous in their separate opportunities to assess the game, it's not ideal, but I don't know that I agree with those things. I think they certainly didn't set the same physical tone they did against Netherlands, but I don't know that it was necessarily a lack of effort or a lack of trying or anything. I think they just came up against a more physical side who weren't going to be cowed into a corner by those things, who weren't going to let themselves be intimidated. They didn't make the mistakes at the back that Netherlands did a couple times when we managed to pounce on them, just like dwelling on the ball too long, giving us just enough time to press and create pressure and get a couple good shots out of it. Like, Canada just didn't give us those opportunities, and without those like little emotional boosts of the odd shot here or there, just like continually posing a threat, there was no threat, so they just kind of rolled over the game for 90 minutes. It wasn't ideal, Doc. I'll say that. It wasn't a great performance, but I don't think it was a mess. Like, I just think it's one of those situations where Canada shut down all their best, I guess, plans, all the things that we were trying to do, the things we've been working on in order to create goals at this tournament, putting pressure on the back line, targeting set pieces, being able to hit on the counter-attack. Like, they just didn't let us do any of these. Winning the ball in midfield and attacking in transition. Like, these things were the exact things that Canada stopped us from doing. And so even though Canada were a little bit limited going forward, you give them 70% of possession, a team that good is going to find a way to score a couple goals. So it's not the best way for their tournament to be sitting after 2 games, but I don't think, they're not out of it yet. The important thing is they can still beat Cameroon, and that's the way we were going into it. It was always going to be about, the one game that mattered the most is being able to beat Cameroon, the lowest ranked team in the group. Not a bad team by any means. In fact, it's going to be an incredibly difficult team to beat, but, it's a World Cup. You expect tough things, don't you? It's not going to be easy.
You brought up the 70% possession, and I'm no footballing expert, but you're going to struggle to win games.
I don't know if that was the exact number, by the way.
Oh, I've got it right here, Wildcard. It's 70% possession, and then Canada had 85% passing accuracy on that 70% possession, whereas the Football Ferns only had 30% of the footy, and from that 30% of the footy, they only had 59% passing accuracy. So that's a recipe for losing a game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it suggests the Ferns were pretty deep, weren't they? It tells you that they were cramped in too deep, not enough space to find those passes. It's something Ali Riley said as well, is when the rare occasions when they did win those tackles, they just gave the ball away straight away. And, I mean, you kind of have to. There's no one to pass to. What are you going to do? Knock it around the back when all their attackers are, cramped into that final third? You're under pressure from the start. You just got to get a big clearance in there, and then you hoof it upfield. You've got 1 or 2 strikers completely isolated running around. Maybe you find them, most likely you don't, but even if you do, what are they going to do next? There's no one for them to pass to. It's just you let the game dictate you more than you dictate the game, which is the opposite of the way they defended against Netherlands, where they didn't have a lot of ball, but they were a little more in control. But again, this is just Canada putting on the clamps more than anything.
So the Ferns have to defeat Cameroon, and to be honest, the first 2 games have been pretty dour in terms of attack and spark and excitement and razzle-dazzle and just funky football. The Ferns have an identity that definitely leans towards defensive prowess and, taking opportunities if they do present themselves. Well, against the bigger teams anyway. That's how they like to go about their work. Against Cameroon, where's the attacking spark coming from? Is it Rosie White and Sarah Gregorius seem a bit too similar up top, just for me, Wildcard? So I'm interested to get your thoughts on how the attacking side of things will... what are your thoughts on what needs to happen against Cameroon, either selection or stylistically? Both games have had Gregorius and White in the attacking line, and then you've got Betsy Hassett out wide and Olivia Chance out wide as well. Do you see any improvements or developments that could be made in that as the Ferns go forward to... Because I assume they will have to beat Cameroon. Is there any kind of goal difference equation that might come into it as well? So they're going to have to score more goals. How do you see this attacking aspect of the Ferns working out as we move into what is a must-win game against Cameroon?
I don't think anything drastic needs to change. I mean, it might be a case of you wanting to rotate something just because players are tired and players have been working hard these weeks, but I don't think so. I think most likely we'll see for the 3rd time in a row an unchanged 11, and that's pretty much what Tom Samani's been planning towards all this time. The thing is, where we might need the extra like injection of something is an attack, and in attack we just don't have many options out there. So like there's Hannah Wilkinson, who hasn't played more than about 45 minutes in an official game since rupturing her ACL. Like she's probably not ready to start, certainly not at a World Cup at this intensity. Very much worthy of a spot in the team, because you want someone who can chuck on for those last 20 minutes when you're chasing a goal sort of thing, but like probably not the role she's ready to play. And then you've got Emma Kete, who hasn't played professionally for a couple years now, who came out of retirement in order to make the squad. A little bit of a surprise selection because of that. I'm not sure I guess she must have proved herself more at training than she did in the games, but that's fine. Like, it's what the coach is there to decide. But I just don't know that she offers something massively different or better than what Gregorius or White especially offers. I think Rosie White's a dead set, because her ability to bring both like an energetic and physical sort of defending from the front approach, but also being a pretty decent finisher, quite a creative player. Like, she has a pretty good all-round second strikers game, and I think it's kind of notable that when she's been on the field and not just at this World Cup, I'm talking like the last 6 months basically, every time under Tom Samani, when she's been on the field, we've looked a better, more likely to score kind of team. Sarah Gregorius missed a couple good chances against Netherlands in the first game, but she also scored the winner against England. She's worked pretty hard. She always works tirelessly. It's that kind of striker who isn't necessarily going to, she's not big, she's not physical, she's not going to hold the ball up, but she is going to work very hard. So when you're a team without a lot of possession, that's maybe like targeting your strengths, that's maybe the better way to go still. And also, we just don't have that many options on the bench. And it's something I was thinking about watching the Canada game, is like, we've got the best set of defenders we've ever had, possibly the best goalkeeper we've ever had, and Erin Naylor as well, who made a stunning save, that one sort of left-handed one, tipping the one around the corner there, while it was still 1-0 against Canada as well. Like, we've got such a strong defensive team, and it's just coincided at a time. And we got a couple of very good defensive midfielders as well. Rhea Percival, who ended up having to play most of that game at right back, but that right back was basically defensive midfield with the way Janine Becky was starting in that game. And also the first game having to defend a left winger, Lika Martins, who was Player of the Year for FIFA 2 years ago. So tricky times there. Katie Bowen as well had a pretty good game there in that Canada game. Like, we've got a great defense. We've got a great team for defending off the ball, all these kind of things. But we just don't, like, that kind of era has coincided with just a team that lacks a superstar striker, or just that one player that could really balance things out. So we do tend to be like extremely defensive. And not necessarily in a bad way, because there's a way to do that which is negative, and there's a way to do that which is proactive. And against Netherlands, we saw the proactive version of that, where, yes, they didn't have a lot of ball, but also they were able to, in the areas that they targeted, they were able to create some chances. And all those things I was talking about before, about being able to pressure a defense, being able to win the ball in midfield and counterattack, those things. Couldn't do that against Canada. I think that's because Canada shut those options down. I don't know whether deliberately or whether that's just like the natural way that Canada play, but also it's fair to say that the Ferns weren't quite on top of their game, just in the midfield and going further forward, and disruptions during the game don't help either, I guess. But yeah, against Cameroon, how are they going to do? I mean, I don't think they need to change anything. I don't think they need to alter their approach. I think they just got to trust that the things they've been working on for the last 6 to 12 months are the things that this was always the game they were targeting. The other two were, if they could sneak a point against one of the other two, that'd be great. That'd mean that a win against Cameroon would surely put them through. As it is, a win against Cameroon will possibly put them through. It'll tick off one box, one major target, which is that first win at a FIFA World Cup. But it won't necessarily get them through to the next round, but it could. Like, if they get the right results going their way elsewhere, and there was a good result this morning with USA beating Chile 3-0, so that means that whoever comes third in that group, USA also beat Thailand 13-0, so whoever comes third in that group is going to have a maximum of 3 points and a crap goal difference. So we just need to finish better. Like, we trust that we can, if we win our game, we won't have a goal difference of worse than, we're -3 at the moment, so that'll make it -2. So Chile would then have to beat Thailand by at least 3 goals to cancel that out. So, we got an all right chance there at finishing higher than whoever finishes third in that group, which means finish higher than another team that finishes third and will make through. So there's a few different permutations there, and I don't want to go into all the different games that would have to go our way, but there are enough of them that winning against Cameroon, especially winning by multiple goals, would put us in at least a position where it's a coin toss kind of thing. And we should know before that game, because we're one of the last groups, we should know before that game what the state of the play is as well. So what we need to win by and that kind of thing. I guess I think it's just against a team like Cameroon, we got to target the areas we've been targeting all along and hope that it all works out. Like, hope that they have the mistakes at the back that Canada didn't. Hope that their midfield is just a little bit slower and ours is able to get onto them. Hope that our counter-attack looks a little sharper, that we can get a bit more space down the wings, that we can win a couple more attacking set pieces, a few more corners swung in towards Abby Ursig, those kind of things, free kicks in dangerous areas. Like, all those little things that we've been targeting. It's not going to be like creative, build up the play from the back, 25, 30 pass moves. I don't think that's what we're going to see. It's not the way that this team's been building to play, so whatever. Just got to trust that Cameroon offer the right opportunities, because if we don't beat Cameroon, then we're out anyway. It doesn't matter. You get to the tournament playing a certain way. I don't think now is the time for drastic reassessments, because they've lost to 2 teams that are considerably better than them. It would have been very nice to sneak a point against one of them, but realistically, this was the expected result, was that we'd lose both those games and have to win the third one. So nothing's really changed beyond baseline expectations. We didn't get that morale boosting point, but they're still well in this competition. I've seen some just shocking takes coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden after that game, but from other areas of our esteemed local media, and also people who probably don't follow women's football, especially for anything other than this 1 month of every 4 years. But no, I don't think it's time to panic. I think you just got to, at this point, say it's all or nothing on this last game. 90 minutes, this is going to define success or failure for this tournament, all down to this next and final game. Everything on the line, go out there and show what we've been working towards all this time.
What you're describing, what I've seen from the Football Ferns, I see a lot of similarities between them and the Black Sticks women's hockey team from Aotearoa, who, along with the men, are currently wrapping up the FIH Pro League. Neither team's doing all that well, but the Black Sticks women have a fantastic, world-class defensive unit, but they lack... to be honest, they lack one player who can dribble at someone, take them on one-on-one, and create something from nothing. They do have, for example, Olivia Mary, she scored 3 goals against Belgium, and she's kind of their talismanic goal scorer, but the equivalent to Olivia White is Hannah Wilkinson. They both play up front. They are both strong bodies, bigger than, standard, the average female athlete, and they're strong on the ball. They do their job in scoring goals, but they don't necessarily create. The ball gets to them, and then they put it in the goal. That's their job. But there's just a lack of...
best case scenario, Chris Wood sort of thing.
Yeah. But the difference is that neither the Football Ferns or the Black Sticks women have the creativity around them to, against the best teams, defeat a player one-on-one, skin them, and then set up their strikers around them. So it's just weird, because the foundation for both teams is world-class defense. The Black Sticks women have one of the best defensive units in women's hockey, but they just can't really score goals against the good teams. And the Football Ferns have one of the best defensive units in women's football, but they just can't turn that into like a competitive amount of possession and passing and creating the opportunities. So it's just very strange how two women's sporting teams share the same kind of identity, and that's kind of the next step is having athletes and players in both sports who have the skill set and the confidence and the ability to be a bit more creative and offer a bit more creativity going forward. But it's important to celebrate the fact that both teams are rooted in strictly world-class defense.
That's real interesting, though, because do you think that's a New Zealand thing? Like, I'm thinking as well to chuck another one into the mix, like New Zealand's only superstar max contract basketballer is a 7 foot tall, grinding, defense-minded, team-first center. Like, he's not a flashy, he's going to score you 50 points on a good night kind of point guard who can hit threes from anywhere on the court kind of thing. Steph Curry, Damian Lillard type. He's a grinding, take care of the basics type center, Steven Adams, And I wonder, like, that's obviously not a coincidence. There's a few reasons specifically in basketball, because obviously to be that Steph Curry type, Steph Curry's dad played NBA to a pretty high standard himself. So, like, born and bred within the game. New Zealand, other side of the world, not going to be the same case. You're not going to have the guys who are going to have that superstar kind of skill. Maybe that's a factor in football and hockey as well. I don't know.
I think it's a good correlation, but it's an easy thing to fall back on the typical Kiwi, how we are as people. But then you look at how the All Blacks play rugby. They play with a high level of flair. They have the defensive prowess, they have the cultural elements, they have the good vibes in the team. But when you watch the All Blacks play rugby, they play bloody entertaining rugby. The Kiwis Rugby League team traditionally, they are very skillful. They score more points than the opposition. That's how they're going to win international rugby league games. Even the Black Sticks men, and now the All Whites. The All Whites have had an injection of really skillful attacking players in
the
that
younger Whites anyway.
Yeah,
the older Whites don't even play.
Yeah, well, but there is that creativity coming forward, and the Black Sticks men team, their better players are in the attacking half of the field as opposed to the defensive half. So I think it varies from team to team, but in the Football Ferns and Black Sticks women's, there is a very clear similarity in how these teams play together. And just from my perspective, for both teams to go to a next level and to be more successful, they have to find a couple of players who are probably going to be younger players to come in and with a natural inkling to take on a player one-on-one. You can't really create that. You can't really teach that. You can't really coach that. You just need someone with natural flair, because if you do inject someone with natural flair and natural attacking prowess into a team like the Football Ferns, I reckon it's going to be a bit of a game changer, because suddenly there's more confidence that if the defense do stop a team, they're going to have the ability to score goals or create chances fairly consistently.
Yeah, and obviously the defense is going to look better and get more credit, which I think it's probably an underrated defensive unit at the moment, because people would just look and say, yeah, Abby Erceg, great player, but, New Zealand concede a couple goals every game. It's like, well, yeah, they're going to if they have only 30% of possession and another team can just set up camp outside their penalty area. Like, if you're going to face 10, 15, 20 shots a game, a large chunk of them on target, you're going to concede a lot of goals. If you're able to, and that's one thing they've been very good at, is limiting those shots so far, like not giving up too many clear opportunities, but that means a lot of scrambling. It means a lot of situations where you're like one misstep away from allowing one of those chances. A mistimed tackle could be a penalty on another day of the week kind of thing. And yeah, you're just putting yourself under a lot of pressure by not having an outlet anywhere else, and it would be like a game changer. I wonder, like, with those young All Whites who actually went to a FIFA tournament and played, attacking, aggressive, positive, real like self-belief type football. a lot of those attacking players were coming from the Ole Academy, which is an independent academy, which is does prioritize those kind of things, but is not like aligned with the traditional pathways. So I wonder if that's an alternative. The alternative routes may be playing a bit more of a factor there. Although having said that, I mean, like Sarpreet Singh's coming out of the Phoenix, so that's pretty stock standard New Zealand football development there. So maybe that's a projection, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly what the answer is for the Football Ferns, because I don't massively see those types of players coming through. Like I look at the best young player who wasn't in the squad is Anna Leet, who made herself unavailable, like because she's going to university and was going to be a third string keeper at this event because she's like 18 years old. So decided she wanted to focus on her studies or whatever ahead of going over to the States. But like 4 years time, good chance that she'll at least be in the squad, if not challenging for the number one spot, certainly in 8 years time when Erin Naylor's probably done. Like, I mean, that's the goalkeeper we're talking about there. The under 17 girls who did so well the other tournament, like their World Cup last year, they did that on the back of just sparse goals, some of them from set pieces, mostly like just being a strong defensive team. Captain, what's her name? Annika Middendorf, I believe, was the captain, and she is a defender, like a fullback. Like the players that we're developing are sort of the same mold as the ones that we already have. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's happening yet, but I mean, all it takes is just a couple good results at a World Cup, and beating Cameroon would be a start to be able to show players that we can, players can believe in themselves, that they can compete with top teams around the world, and then you get that far and you start. Like, that's the next step. You have to show that a New Zealand player can do this before New Zealand players feel like they can do this. You just gotta show them first. I think there's that phrase, you can't be what you can't see, right? So, show it, and then we'll see if that opens things up, and fingers crossed.
Football Ferns take on Cameroon Friday morning, I believe, wildcard, 4 a.m.
That's exactly right.
On the Friday, so we'll be back on the weekend, maybe Saturday or Sunday, to talk through the Football Ferns. Until then,
hopefully previewing a round of 16 game too.
Oh, there you go.
Hopefully.
You can see it. You're envisioning it. You're manifesting a knockout game of footy for the Football Ferns. If you like a bit of cricket, tune into this Black Caps episode of the Nichecation. And if you like a bit of rugby league, tune into some rugby league yarns as well. And we'll see you next time. Later, bye.